Morning.
Morning,
Chair.
Okay.
Good morning.
Everybody's awake. Mr. Mbaba, Tumezwe. Mr. Tumezwe, any?
Morning, Chair.
Aha. It looks like you are falling from the cliff.
Sorry, Chair.
It looks like you're just falling from the cliff. There's an echo there.
Yes, it's these gadgets, Chair, but I'm sorry for that. I've sorted the issue.
Very sure. If everybody is awake, can I check how many members do we have? Who's Peter Paul?
Sorry, Chair.
Who is Peter Paul?
Let me check quickly, Chair.
Chair, it's Peter Paul, Chair.
Peter Paul.
Yes, Chair.
The former secretary, Chair.
Oh, okay. Is he still here?
No, Chair, I think we didn't have any arrangements that he's going to join the meeting, but I would assume that because of it's a public meeting, he has joined on those bases, unless there is anything special sent to him in terms of the invitation, but that hasn't been done through the Secretariat, Chair.
IT service. Okay. Looks like we're ready to go. Okay. Now I was just trying to check so that there's no one who mimics him. If it's a Peter Paul, we know. Good morning, colleagues, honorable members. Morning, AG, and your team, and the various interest parties, including the media, present in the meeting. Today we are, let me just show that it's myself who's speaking. I'm trying to just have it properly. At least people should see that his son is alive. I haven't delegated my what's name. Today we have outlined items on the agenda which relate to the anchor item on the strategy of the Office of the Auditor-General of South Africa. We are pleased to meet today to reflect into areas which the office has thoroughly dealt with and thought should bring forward some amendments if necessary, and align that with the budget and the areas that need a beef up in terms of human resources based on the capital backup on those areas which are of our own attention. Yesterday, we had a debate in Parliament on the institutions that deepen, protect.
Recording in progress.
That debate was so reflective of what actually taking place in that sphere in as far as Chapter 9 institutions are concerned. One is very happy that what we have arrived at is exactly what we had a discussion on last time we met, which relates to financing and as a topical matter, which might go in front of Parliament in a few days to come. If that is the case, it strengthens our own argument to ensure that the Office of the Auditor-General, as part of those institutions of Chapter 9 of the Constitution, to be able to advance democracy, to ensure that accountability is observed in a manner in which the strategy which we are looking at today makes value. The intention is to keep those structures afloat so that the country should receive in a bearable form some detail on those matters which seek the public to know.
Chair, you've gone on mute.
So I was talking on myself. No, sorry.
Just for a few seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I had a discussion with the AG this morning. He told me something I didn't know about some areas of South Africa. It might be that I've been visited by such. Nevertheless, one is proud of the fact that the Office of the Auditor-General is viewed as one of the actual Chapter 9 institutions which are on point in terms of their own functionality. So we wish to say keep it up, and it's based on what from time to time we deal with in facing those instances which ought to assist that functionality and ensure the ability of the office to survive in whatever form. As you would know that we are somewhat from looking into the months remaining, we're getting closer to a close of the term which the Office of the AG starting together, but looking into the instances of the ability of that office to meet the terms of the Public Audit Act. We can probably say so far so good, to ensure that in the audit that they carry, they have infused the necessity of ensuring that the money is aligned to performance systems, and those systems are in place, and the value for money is visibly in the eyes of the population, so that they could attest to whatever financial results they receive from the Office of the Auditor-General. So today we're looking into that kind of a detail as to how does that office seek to strengthen its own ability. How does it look into the broad outlook, which is extended over time based on the 2030 horizon, and mainly trying to influence culture change in the public space. Something which is a tall order, looking into how the results have shown so far, but peaky. The things are happening towards that a kind of improvement. So we enjoy those results, looking into the MIs, the increase in terms of those MIs, and how they contribute in terms of recovery on the monies that would have been a potential loss from the state. And we wish to say that watching closely, the Office of the Auditor-General is becoming even more effective as a result of such instances. So welcome, colleagues, and welcome to the AG and the team. The agenda items are in front of us, which I hope that there is absolutely no disagreement on those matters that we see as agenda items. Is there anyone to propose the adoption of the agenda?
Matafa moves for the adoption, Chair.
Yeah, Honorable Matafa moves.
Ngana. Second.
Seconds, Bush, 30, Honorable Singh, 40. So the agenda is adopted. Can you just open up the agenda on the screen? Are there any apologies on your side, Mr. Dumezweni?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning to everyone. Chair, I would love to indicate that we haven't received any apology so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then we're good to go. AG, over to you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair, and I'd like to greet the honourable members of SCOAG as we join again this time around virtually. I do have the Deputy Auditor-General in the meeting, together with a number of our executives who are central to the conversation that this agenda will drive us towards. I'd like to thank you, Honourable Chair and members, for the opportunity to once again engage with you in this way, to share with you our Blue Book, which includes our strat plan and budget, which we submitted to the committee on the 30th of September as required by the PAA. And I will make sure that following this meeting, we incorporate the insights that will come from the committee as we finalize our planning for the next financial year. When we finish the presentation on the Blue Book, which I will share with the DAG, he'll deal with the internal operations aspects of it. We'll then switch gears and deal with the Audit Directive, and then ultimately the last item on the agenda. So perhaps with your guidance, Chair, we could do the Blue Book and then pause and take the inputs, and then move on to the last two items after that.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. As the honourable members will remember, we are now heading into the second year of implementing our strategy. In fact, we are almost halfway through the second year. So the Blue Book covers third year, fourth year, and fifth year of implementing our strategy for Culture Shift 2030. We have engaged with the honourable members of SCOAG on our strategy for quite some time now. A reminder is that that's what we aspire for, which is to have a stronger, more direct and consistent impact on improving the lived reality of South Africans. And we aim to achieve that by sustainably and efficiently shifting public sector culture through insights from our audit work, influence given the different engagements that we're able to have, and enforcement using our powers of enforcement as set out in the additional powers. And our aspiration remains that we would want to contribute to moving a critical mass of auditees away from doing harm towards the space where they are doing good. The honourable members will remember that our strategy is informed by our constitutional mandate, our role as an organ of state, as well as the aspirations and key principles that are set out in the standard that applies to all supreme audit institutions across the world, which sees us wanting to make a difference to the lives of citizens. We aim as Team HSA to ensure that we optimize the benefit that SAI South Africa delivers into society of South Africa, the democracy of South Africa, given that we are a SAI that has the mandate and the ability to audit all public institutions every single year across the different spheres of government. The strategic goals, I think, are well known to the committee, which are sustainably, efficiently shift public sector culture through influence, insight, as well as enforcement. As I indicated, I will deal with insight, influence, and enforcement, as well as shift public sector culture. in terms of where we're going for the next 3 years, and then the DAG will take over and deal with the last 2 strategic goals for sustainably and efficiently. As a reminder, the next slide sets out what is well known to the honourable members of SCOAG being our ecosystem of accountability, which really sees us highlighting how we engage with each and every one of the different role players in the ecosystem of accountability, given that we are able to interact with them each and every year, and to see how we can get them to operate more effectively in their own respective mandates, using the insights we do have, and make sure that each and every one of us is able to play our role as distinct and complementary as possible. The commitments for the next 3 years, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, are a continuation of what we started back in 2022, and really got going in 2023 and are moving on for the financial year that we're currently in. In terms of dealing with the aspect of shifting public sector culture, we decided from the onset to separate out which auditees we were going to focus on in which period, so that there was a bit of order and predictability in the system. We gave ourselves a bit of time to prepare for each of these aspects and then to start doing the work. We're tracking relatively well, and I do believe that we'll continue to gain further traction in the work that we are doing in each of those different value chains, as well as the different categories of auditees. 2024, for the year that we're currently in, is dealing with expanding the work we do on the MIs, the value chains, the metros, and disclaimers, to strengthen the type of influence we're able to have, but also to deepen the insights we have. Ultimately, our work is about gaining ground as the years go on. And now I think we can move to the next slide. Thanks, Vedana, which indicates what we aim to do on insight for this year, for the next 3 years. What we've learned over time, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, is that it is best practice for a supreme audit institution to have an overall consolidated audit plan. It allows for better planning internally. It also allows for better resource allocation. It gives our auditors some predictability of what will be expected from them. But it's also a very transparent way of engaging with our auditees and key stakeholders, for they too get a sense of where we are moving as we audit all of government. So we have been investing over the last couple of years in preparing such an overall audit plan. And that process is now maturing to a point where we can move beyond doing a 1-year audit plan, but to then do one that looks across multiple operating periods. It allows us to then be clear about what we're going to do, how we compile the multidisciplinary skills that are required to help us achieve our aspirations. So this coming year is about making sure that we get the full benefit of the multi-year audit plan that we've now been creating. In the story about insights, you'll know that we have invested significantly in understanding the key value chains and the key auditees where we audit. And we've also been investing over time in ensuring that we complement the skills of auditors with those of other experts with different skills. And together, that allows us to integrate the work we do and follow the same resources across the different operations of a public institution, and give clearer insight of where the money is going and what impact it is having. And I'm hoping that as you interact with us in your various committees, you're starting to see the benefit of this investment over time. Going forward, we'll continue to invest in our technological tools. Our data analytics in particular is starting to look more and more exciting, and I'm really thrilled about the progress we're making. And I believe that the traction we aim to make through making different investments will get us to a point where the quality of our work, audit quality, improves, the coverage of our audits improves, but importantly, the insight we're able to offer does improve. are using dashboards to understand our auditees' businesses and follow the money is having a better impact on us understanding key risks from an audit point of view. And as I said, importantly, equipping those in the different parts of the ecosystem with the insights they need to perform on their duties. So it's really a continuation of what we have already begun. On the influence aspect, we started really with much more investment on insight over the last 18 months to 2 years. What we're seeing now is that we have an ability to now shift our focus into the influence part, because now we have all these insights. How do we optimally get them in front of the right people at the right time and in the right way to help them make better decisions and take better action? So much of our work over the next performance period will be about investing in this space of influence, getting to understand our stakeholders in their breadth much better, ensuring that we're able to build and sustain relationships with other players in the ecosystem, and also investing in their capabilities. A case in point would be the area of internal audit and audit committees. You may have heard when we spoke about the annual report just about 2 weeks ago that this area is one that we want to invest in terms of ensuring that internal auditors and audit committees are aware of their obligations, but importantly are well equipped to engage with them predictably across the different public institutions. Another area we've identified as needing our attention is that of the CFOs, and with partnering with other people in the ecosystem, such as the National School of Government, such as the provincial treasuries and the national treasuries, we see the opportunity for us to make additional investments in getting these different players in the ecosystem to do their part even better. But much of our work on influence, I think, will start to shift in the right direction over the next year or so. On the enforcement aspect, the honourable members will remember that our focus over the last 4 years of implementing the instrument had been to gradually implement it across the audit portfolio. Having started in 2019 with just 6 or 16 PFMA auditees subjected to the MI process and 9 municipalities subjected to the MI process, I'm quite sure you would have seen how we've rapidly ramped up in terms of the number of auditees. We've also improved in terms of giving even stronger MIs as our ability to understand how to use the instrument towards driving accountability improvements over time. So the journey over the next 3 years is going to be about having implemented across the audit portfolio, ensuring that we deepen how we identify MIs, and also to enhance our own internal operations so that we're more effective and efficient in processing these MIs. As time goes on, we have to keep investing in training our staff on the MI process. It is a peculiar process, one that is specific to AGSA. So it's not a natural part of the training programs at universities. Ours is to make sure that we complement what other people do in preparing our teams so that we can ensure that they are adequately prepped for engaging with the MI process. We also have to continue to invest in awareness and for accounting officers and others in the ecosystem. As different administrations come and go, there are changes, especially in administration as well as in the oversight mechanism. Crucial that we continue to invest. And then the other area that would gain attention here relates to enhancing our ongoing collaboration with law enforcement bodies as well as the public investigative bodies. So the blue book that you have in front of you, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, is really a continuation of the matters we've been seized with for the last couple of years, and really taking on board the lessons we're learning and using them to enhance what we do and the impact they are. Chair, I'd like to now hand over to the Deputy AG who will deal with the internal priorities as well as the performance targets. DAG, may I hand over to you?
Thank you, AG, and good morning, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. I would like to continue with the presentation as currently outlined, focusing on the internal operations. Thank you, AG, for setting the scene in terms of our focus areas. And I do take it that now our honorable members are now familiar with our strategy. I have it on good authority, Honorable Chair, that one of your members of the committee wrote a thesis on our strategy and got a distinction, which is very encouraging to know that members are taking our strategy seriously, and they also engage with the strategy outside of the formal engagement that we have with SCOWEC. So knowing that most of you know it, I will fly through the strategy, but if there's any area that you want me to focus on, we are happy to take questions. Honorable Chair, in us refining our strategy, we take into account the operating environment, our internal one, but also the external environment, because we do not operate in a vacuum. We have to appreciate the fiscals are constrained, but also try to be as efficient as possible in line with our strategy. We do accept that as a learning organization, there is always room to improve, and we always continuously look for ways to improve on how we are doing our work. We do identify opportunities for we can fix things and improve. And I think that for a learning organization, that is a very critical DNA in terms of continuous learning. Honorable Chair, I would like to confirm that in us presenting this strategy, we have analyzed our environment. There are areas that we're going to be working on as an organization. There are certain focus areas that I'm going to share with the committee in terms of our continuous focus in those areas. And if you can please move to the next slide, please. So, Chair, as AG has mentioned, that it's critical for us to influence the culture shift in the public sector. But as they say, charity begins at home. So one of the key focus is our internal culture focus. We do need to change our own internal culture, and that we are doing. And also we are focusing on our leadership alignment. As part of our activities for in this calendar year, we had the leadership summit, and we are continuous to have engagement with our team so that they fully understand what it is that they are doing. AG went on a roadshow throughout the country to sell the strategy, and we have seen our people taking it in their strides. We are proud about the buy-in internally in terms of the culture shift strategy. Now the big task is for us to ensure that we do influence our stakeholders, the ecosystem outside, to ensure that we do achieve the target of 30 by 30, meaning we're going to move 30% of our auditees to doing good in 2030. In doing this, Chair, it's important for us that we continuously implement the culture shift, and AG spoke at length about that. I am going to share with the committee some of the specific goals that we are setting ourselves to track whether we are making progress in the next few years. Those will be indicating, but AG has already laid the foundation in terms of what the focus is. Honorable Chair and honorable members, it's important for us to continuously improve on our technological capabilities. This will enable us to deliver world-class audit service to the public sector, but also ensure that it is done in a manner that help us to add the appropriate insight to be able to add value to our audit processes. That process is ongoing, and I will add some details in terms of some of the specific areas that we are doing. One of them has been our journey to implement a new audit software plan, which I think is going to assist us to do our audits much better. But over and above that, Chair, there are a number of initiatives that we are undertaking, which will help us in terms of our digital transformation. Every time we come to you, we emphasize that it is a journey. It is going to take us some time, and it will need some serious investment on our side. And we are going to keep focusing on ensuring that we do that. We have been able to keep the lights on, and now we are able to then focus on new areas that will assist us as an organization to deliver our work much more easier. We do all these things, Honorable Chair, while we are ensuring that our financial sustainability is maintained. It is important for us to remain financially sustainable because that is a core of our independence. While we normally share with you that we do have challenges in terms of our data collection, we apply all mechanisms and tactics that we can internally to ensure that we are financially sustainable. And I will share with you our budget that is proposed going forward. We continuously look that we are resourcing for success, and this means that we keep assessing whether we are future fit. We will continuously bring the appropriate skills, the right specialization, and where we can't, we're going to develop our own timber. We do have appropriate schemes internally, such as the CA training schemes, which over the past few years has really yielded result. There are certain areas that we're going to be going into, such as data analytics, to ensure that we do have the right skills. And if the market cannot give us those skills, we commit to grow our own timber. There are a few initiatives that we're looking into in the next financial period that will assist us in growing those particular capabilities internally. Honorable Chair, it is important that our ethical posture is not questioned at all. We currently have a AA rating, and we do intend to maintain that going forward. I've already spoken about the leadership alignment and the internal culture focus, which we cannot change the culture outside if we do not continuously challenge ourselves to change our culture internally. In terms of the specific targets, Chair, AG has laid out the foundation, so I will be fairly high level at this stage, but I'm happy to take any questions at the end of the day. The most important thing which was challenging about this strategy is really the culture shift, and we have to question ourselves and say, how do we assess if we are making progress? So the way in which we are doing it at the moment is that AG will assess us to say, are we putting the right capability? Are we doing the right thing on an annual basis? So this is based on AG's assessment to say, are we making the right traction? Our long-term goal is very ambitious. It's really to move most of our auditees from where they were not doing good to doing good. And I think that this will be one of those tough measures, and AG is going to be the one that's going to assess us. We have a number of initiatives that's helping us to build the capability and the enablers for us to achieve this. Some of them ranging from the multi-year audit plan, which allow us to plan properly for our audits in the long run, and also the individual components that then feed into that. We have finalized how we're going to map our auditees, and we are plotting them in terms of where they are right now. We're developing plans to say, how do we work with the auditees to ensure that they implement our recommendation so that they move from the left side to the right side. AG spoke about insight, and I've already covered it to a certain extent because some of the work that we're doing will be influenced by the multi-year audit plan. We do expect that at least 30% of our key recommendations are implemented. We have seen that there is a great improvement in terms of our auditees coming to the party. We've seen the accounting authorities understanding our recommendation better, and there's been commitment to implement this. It will be up to us to ensure that we monitor it as we go along to ensure that the recommendations are being implemented and we are moving the dial towards the right direction. On influence, Chair, we have spoken now, and it's becoming part of the South African language about the ecosystem. We're saying that we cannot work alone. We need to get the entire ecosystem to work together. And we're going to continue to implement the ecosystem. AG spoke about the focus, and we're going to have on annual basis specific focus, but making sure that everyone in the accounting ecosystem, on the accountability ecosystem, is doing their work, starting with the internal auditors and audit committees who are close to the auditees' environment, but also ensure that the oversight bodies are doing what needs to be done. That will be a continuous focus. In terms of our targeted program, we intend to achieve 75% in terms of the stakeholder program. We are in the process of finalizing our survey that will give us a baseline, and then we're going to then put a plan in place that will allow us to ensure that we continue to remain being relevant as an office. On enforcement, AG has spoken from humble beginning. Now we're going to be hitting 100% in terms of the coverage, which is great, and then we're going to keep it like that. The next part is really about us ensuring that these MIs that we put on the table, we close them quickly, and AG will be assessing us in terms of making sure that the backlog that is there gets cleared on a timeless basis. On sustainability, Chair, Honorable Chair, it is important that we still deliver our audits on time, and our target is that we should achieve 90 to 100% of the audits that has been submitted on time. We will always strive to do that because that ensures that we can hold the auditees accountable. In terms of ensuring our own quality, we still believe that quality is our license to trade, and we're still gonna maintain a quality result of between 80 and 90, meaning that of the files that get sampled to go through an independent quality process, we achieve an overall pass rate of between 80 and 90. That is important to maintain, because that means that the work that we do cannot be challenged. And it's important that we continuously look into ways to improve. Where there's a dip, we need to address that. When we met last time, we showed you our graph about how we have maintained this pass. And because of the initiative that we've put in place, we do see that we are maintaining this range of 80 to 90. We should give confidence to the public out there that the audit opinions that get issued by the office are as issued. It is important for us to continuously ensure that we build the capability to support the teams to be able to continue to do this work, Chair. In terms of the ethics maturity level, we do intend to maintain our AA rating. It's something that we believe that is strong for an office of our type. It is important that there's no question about our ethical posture. Who audits the auditors? Chair, we do get audited as well, and we do intend to maintain our clean audit. We have maintained it in the past. We do not intend dropping it. It's something that we work very hard to ensure that if there's any audit findings, we deal with it. The committee will remember in the past there was concern around our IT environment, and we dealt with it. We like to lead by example, Chair. There could be areas to improve. The aim is to accept them and work on addressing the issues. And where there are gaps, we ensure that we accept them and we put appropriate mitigating controls to address those particular concerns. Continuing with the sustainability chain, on the net surplus side, we still target to have a net surplus of 1:4. Given our focus on cost optimization, we might breach the upper side of things, but until we consistently do that, I think the 1:4 is still a reasonable target, Chair, because we want to try and utilize our surpluses to help us to invest in our digital transformation journey. But as it stands, we still commit to be able to do our work and hopefully have a surplus of 1:4. But as mentioned, we are putting in place specific measures to do serious cost optimization, which cut across looking into areas where we can renegotiate contracts. The team is busy at work renegotiating some of our data contract where we can get more for less. We are looking into areas where we can optimize on our space utilization. We have seen that post-COVID, we may not have as much foot traffic in the offices as we used to. So we are really looking into ways to say, do we still need the same office space? How can we better leverage our office space to ensure that we are cost optimization? There are a number of initiatives that we are taking into account to ensure that we are as cost effective as possible. On the cash safety margin, Honorable Chair, we still want to maintain our cash cover of 2 to 3 months going forward. This gives us the ability and the buffer in case of any unforeseen circumstances that we are able to fulfill our cash obligation. We do intend to increase our culture index by 2% from the baseline. We are going to be doing a survey that will tell us the baseline. I did mention that it is an important aspect for the culture shift to also happen internally. So it's something that we're going to be monitoring going forward to ensure that our culture index is going towards the right direction that we aspire to be. On the efficiency side, Honorable Chair, we continuously improve on our productivity. We look into ways in which we can do our audits better, such as adopting the DEM, which is the differentiated audit methodology. We also look into ways in which we can automate. We did share with you that we are on a journey to implement robotics wherever possible, so that some of the work that can be done much quicker and efficiently is done by these robots, and our professionals will spend more time assessing the results thereof instead of doing the tick and batch. We are on a critical journey at the moment to replace the old audit software with the new audit software that we believe is going to bring a lot of efficiencies. There are a number of productivity initiatives that we are putting in the system in terms of how can we do our work better. This also assists us that the cost that we do for the audits, it is justified. So it is up to us to ensure that we leverage any tools that we can to ensure that we're doing that work in the best way. We are reviewing and we're going to finalize the organization model in terms of the new strategy. With any new strategy, it is important for us to ensure that are we still appropriately configured and structured to support the new strategy, and we'll continuously assess whether we are future fit. We are at advanced stage of doing those assessments, and where we need to tweak things, we are definitely going to do that. Moving on to the budget, Honorable Chair, we are in terms of the principles that has been approved by SCOWEG in 2008. We are still self-funding. We can do with a bit of help to get the data, as mentioned by SCOWEG last time, into our bank account, not to be sitting in the data's bank account. We are still have a markup factor for the work that we do to ensure that we can cover our overheads over and above just the salaries of the professional staff. However, for work that we contract out to CWC, meaning the private firms that help us during our peak, we do not put a markup. So if the audit cost was 10 rand, we will bill the auditee 10 rand and pay the audit firm 10 rand. There is no markup on that particular work. We still believe that the work, the way that while there is room to review our funding model in the long run, especially to cater where at the moment the main cost driver for our revenue is the charge per hour. Given the journey we're undertaking where we're going to use much more digital technology, we need to find a way in which we now bill more in terms of the value we put on the table, because it will take some investment to build this capability. But once it's there, it will then change the dynamics of how our cost structures is currently done. So while we're currently comfortable with the way it is, we are in the long run going to bring to the SCOWEG a funding module that talks to how we're going to change our operations. Honorable Chair, in line with the culture shift strategy, we are reviewing the funding model, as I've just mentioned. We do try to compare ourselves with other side and also the industry. What we see is that the industry has moved where a lot of work is done using digital enablers. So we are also on the journey to do that. We do believe that there's still a bit of road to cover, but we believe that the plans that we've got in place should be sustainable. Obviously, the key thing is about the ability to fund that particular digital transformation. I've mentioned that we are looking into operating much more efficiently using ways such as DEM, which is the differentiated audit methodology, but also looking into the use of better technology. We do estimate that the initiative I've just mentioned, Honorable Chair, will cost us in the next few years about 1.6 billion. We do think that if we work on cost optimization and we are able to collect the surpluses that we're going to request the committee in the next few years to allow us to retain, we should be able to self-fund this. It's going to be a tall order, but it is our commitment that for us to achieve and maintain our independence, we need to find a way to fund these initiatives using our own ways. We are going to explore some of the options that the committee shared with us last time in terms of thinking about some other initiatives. Those will always remain on the table, because the sooner you invest in this digital transformation, not because you are constrained by your financial muscle, the sooner you get the benefits. So it will be important in us assessing these options that are available, that we do the proper balancing act in terms of undo delaying to financial constraint and also getting the benefits much sooner. Chair, I'd like to take the committee through the hard numbers in terms of our budget. We just presented to you our last performance for the past financial year. We achieved an audit revenue of 4.5 billion. The budget was meant to be 4.5, but because of some audits that we took back in line with us being relevant, doing the audits that are critical, the forecast for this year has shifted a bit, because that movement happened in the course of the financial year that we're currently in. So looking into the forecast for this year, we're forecasting revenue of 4.8, and the budget going forward increased by about 5.5%, which is in line with inflation. While the main driver of our target rate is salary, it has to be all-inclusive in terms of the inflation target. And I do believe that whenever we have to have any adjustment that cause an increase on the top line, we really look deep to say as to can we bring any further efficiencies? And the part that we are focusing on is to ensure that we do not increase the top line in the long run. We are able to have efficiencies that, if it all works, we should be able to maintain and continue servicing the audit base for a fixed fee. We always question ourselves about this question to say, is the rent that we are putting on the table that we are charging equivalent to a rent? And our view is that there should be more value for each rent that we earn as our fees, Jen. And we continuously make sure that there's overall value. There is a lot of work that we do, which is not necessarily built for, such as some of the work that we do through performance audit. AG Tsakani mentioned that we follow an integrated approach, and we are able to add more value when we bring these people in terms of that. The work that we are doing around the MIs is not directly funded. In the past, we used to get an allowance from National Treasury, and we are in engagement and also in for the current year, the discussions are at an advanced stage in terms of how could they assist us to fund that component. We did share with you that we have seen some good successes in terms of the savings that we have realized on behalf of the Republic through the MI part. So it's going to be important that we do fund that. I do think that the budget is a fair reflection of the effort that it will take us to do the work. We continuously look into where we can cut costs from a cost optimization. We are looking into balancing our proportion of the work we do internally against the work that is done by external audit firms. I do need to emphasize that given the nature of our work, where the deadlines are around the same time, we cannot resource all our audits from internally, because after doing the work, our people will not be as busy. So it's important for us to resource internally up until the right level, and the peak, we use the external audit firms. We also use the external audit firms when they help us with the peak to also drive a transformation agenda. And I think that we see each other as strategic partners, and we're going to continue to utilize that. While doing that, we're also looking into initiatives internally that will make sure that we are much more self-reliant to some extent, such as in the past financial year, we introduced the Ahluma project, which is where trainees who will have been signed off after finishing their training, we kept them in a central pool, and those are used to complement and supplement the resource need throughout the business as and when required. These are people that we believe will gain more experience by staying with us, and by the time that they eventually leave us, because we are a training institution, they will have gained the right experience. I'd like to hand back to you, Chair. I understand that I can't hand back to my boss, so this time I'd like to hand back to you. I've come to the end of our presentation. Oh, sorry, the last one is just the balance sheet. Quickly, you can see that our balance sheet is fairly thin. The main things is really around our computer equipment, which is our laptops. There will be movement in the next few years when we capitalize some of the assets that we're going to be creating around the computer side and also around our computer software. But with other things else, we don't have much of a balance sheet, which create a challenge, and we're looking into ways as to how can we strengthen our balance sheet in the long run. At this stage, it's still at an early stage, but the time that we find ways that we can strengthen our balance sheet, we are going to come back to the committee. Thank you, Chair. I think the right protocol is
Seems we've lost the DAG. Chair, may we hand back to you?
Thank you very much, AG and DAG, on the presentation, which anchors our strategic thought around the matters which you have tabled. And colleagues, I hope that in catching up with the areas which have been emphasized by the Auditor-General and the DAG in terms of presenting the detail, we are so aware that this is not necessarily something new. It is a continuum which proves to be successful, as it is the case, taking from the adage that why do you change it if it works? And in this instance, there is an extent of deepening the areas which have been of existence. One critical point which the AG has raised is the area which relates to the scope of influence. The relevance in any market is to how your product survives, to influence those who think can benefit it, and to expand because of the value which has been derived. It's no longer you who sells the product, it's those who have had some benefit and taste of it who would assist in that marketing drive. So it's of value to do so, and the qualitative nature of the outlook of your work, which would attest to the fact that the relevance takes the scope along to pull others for influencing them to buy into your own strategy, to sustain your organization, to keep it always relevant. And you would know that working in the public environment, it is having to do with a sustained form of culture change, as you put it, pulling everybody along, looking into the outlook up to 2030. And through such, you would want to anchor that kind of a theoretical outlook by ensuring that you have the working force, which are the drivers of your strategy, and them themselves in the internal environment must buy into that vision, must pull together, must show the discipline in terms of keeping to that outlook. So all those areas will be sustained if we somewhat ensure that there is a level of a fully funded operation, which is going to assist towards the independence of the institution as enshrined in the Constitution, and keep the belief of the people of South Africa into the institution of the Auditor-General of South Africa to be a litmus paper on the areas of accountability, in fulfillment of good governance, deepening democracy, and protection of the value of the populace, to keep on benefiting on the infrastructure, on the fiscus, and there's no loss, or it is somewhat minimized. There it is, colleagues. Are there any areas of comment or questions on the areas raised by both the AG and DAG? I don't see hands. There's one hand, Honorable Matafa. Honorable Matafa.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning,
And then
Chair.
Honorable Phillips will follow, and the Honorable Sisokota will then follow as well. Honorable Matafa.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chair, AG, DAG, and the team. Now, Chair, let me start first by acknowledging the presentation. And in the main, it's the purpose that I raised my hand. The presentation of the strategy is crystal clear. And my view is that the committee must support the strategy and agree that it is sound. And as you earlier alluded to, it's an indication of a continuation of the previous strategic commitments. And it is based on properly defined strategic targets as well as performance measurement indicators. So we're quite happy, Chair, with what has been brought to us. And I think maybe just one request from my side. As much as we welcome the deliberations between the AG and the National Treasury on the support that they can receive as far as the MI process is concerned, it will be maybe requested that on a regular basis, they brief the committee in terms of how those deliberations are proceeding. You'd remember, Chair, when the process was introduced, the committee was concerned about the resources that it might pull from the office, and if whether will the office be capable to be able to carry the additional responsibility as presented by the MI process. But we are quite happy and we welcome that particular development in that regard. Chair, that's all. Was just to acknowledge the strategy and agree with the DAG that using their strategy, you'll definitely perform well in your academic endeavor. I'm speaking from experience. I will pause there, Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Matafa, and congratulations for you getting that form of compounded academic exercise on the theoretical anchor of the Office of the Auditor-General in advancing its own relevance out there. I'll look and check and find your thesis if it's available as published, or you could share it with us so that we can see what direction you're taking in terms of your recommendations. Thank you very much, Honorable Matafa. Honorable Phillips.
Good morning again, Chair, and I'd like to also echo my colleagues' thanks for the presentation and also congratulate my colleague on his achievement. I think that's really well done. My only question is on the additional funding or independent funding that the Auditor-General asked for support on. How are we going to do that? Is there going to be a letter to National Treasury, or what's going to happen? Sorry, as a newbie, I'm not quite sure how we go about actually executing that support for the funding that the AG has asked for. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Phillips. As I was saying earlier on, that we enjoyed a debate yesterday, and the convergence point was based on the financing of Chapter 9 institutions, which was very comforting because that has been our way through. The relevance of your question would have to be somewhat dealt with inclusively. Ourselves must as well contribute to that question. I think the DAG has already indicated that there are engagements taking place between them and Treasury. It might be as well that through that kind of sharing notes, we'll be able to enhance it. Two of our colleagues are serving in a relevant committee in terms of appropriation, which could easily influence the whole aspect. But what we could add is that if the DAG has that file, if it could be shared with us in terms of corresponding documentation, if there has been, or some notes, if our colleagues could be assisted to get hold of it. Honorable Matafa and Honorable Mlenzana are serving in an appropriate committee on appropriation. And as well, we can push it through our own debates and deliberations. That debate which we had on the mini plenary is going to go to plenary very soon in terms of the areas which need our attention. The Honorable Mamkota.
Thank you, Stan. I just want to say that both the DG and DAG's presentations were loud and clear, very clear. We don't want to rehash what they've said, but I think what is critical is that DAG is talking about the blue book, that book being the anchor that we are all familiar with, and it is in line with the Constitution. The issue of cultural shift consistently moving forward is going to be the anchor. It's critical. And the ethical standing on its own is very, very critical. But at the same time, we're talking about the issue of the ecosystem, which everyone had to read from the same hymn book. The birth rate on its own, 80 to 90, is high. And I think it is really a train which is moving. We just need to follow up as members of parliament. But I think what is important in this presentation is the fact that there is value for money in every movement, in every aspect. I'm more interested also in the Atoma project going forward. I would like to get more from that side. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mamu Umkota. Is there anyone who would want to contribute? So I can give over to the AG and the DG. AG and DG.
Chairperson.
Honorable
Chairperson Matafa.
Yes.
No, thank you so much. No, nothing major, Chair. Just to correct the achievement academically. It was not a full thesis. My submission was part of a postgrad diploma in public management. So just to correct that, I don't want to have unwanted accusations that I would have claimed to have achieved a higher qualification than it was. Yeah, it was part of a submission for that particular postgrad diploma, but not a full thesis. Thank you, Chair.
No.
No, but Chairperson, he must. Chairperson, he is still young, and he must then, from now a theological point of view, once spoken is done. So go for it.
Amen. Thank you.
No, that was good. No, thanks very much. Nonetheless, as one of those performance requiring acknowledgement, because we are dealing with in-depth analysis of the work that you do, which is greatly of value and sustenance of the actual theory around the areas which the intelligentsia should keep on pondering to somewhat to pull through in terms of the what they call posterity. The more written, the more kept, the more survives. So it extends that kind of a basis of survival of the institution. So thank you very much. Keep on doing it. AG and DG.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members. The request for us to brief the committee on a regular basis in terms of engagements with the National Treasury, I think is well noted. Thank you, Honourable Matafa, as well as Honourable Phillips. In terms of the letter to the National Treasury, we will send that letter and then we'll give feedback to the committee. And I think, as has happened in the past, it does assist us if the committee is able to follow up on whether or not the commitments are indeed being fulfilled. The support of the members of SCOAG, given the different hats they wear within the parliamentary system, has been invaluable in closing the gap between what resources ought to reach the institution as given in law and what resources ultimately reach the institution. So I think we have to continue to work together to close that gap. And then on Ashuma, Mamkota, if I could just hand over to the DAG to deal with that. He is closer to it and see if there's anything he wants to add to what he already said on Ashuma, or if he wants to follow that up subsequent to the meeting. If I may, with your permission, hand over to the DAG.
Okay, DAG.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Thanks, AG. Just quick additional info. So the Ashuma, what we do when we train our people, usually they sign a 3-year contract with us. And those are the people that we spoke about last time that will then qualify as CAs. Being a training institution, what will then happen at the end of that time, we will then sign them off, and those that have passed will then become CAs and they'll go and work somewhere. What we have done, noticing the dynamics in terms of staff movement, where sometimes, given the age of our people, some go on maternity, there are needs in particular areas of the business. So what we have done was to create a central pool of people. We started with about 140 of them who will have qualified last year, and we kept them in a central pool. So as and when there's a need somewhere, instead of having to rely on external firms, we use that pool. It has been a very good initiative, but what it does, it also helps the individuals to have a broader knowledge of the public sector. Because someone might have trained in the Western Cape business unit, but now when they get to Afuma, they're kept in the center. And if there's need in National E, which may deal more with Transnet, we then place those people there. So it's been a two-way thing. It does help us financially, but in terms of creating a well-rounded trainee, is going to go a long way in terms of doing that. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, AG.
Well, thank you very much, AG and DAG. Probably one other area which is an area which we need to have a thorough outlook on relates to the upkeep and wanting to reach a fair standard in terms of the quality that we place on these audits. If then that is the case, there is really a need to probably do something about extended. I don't want to say avoidance. Consistently, they delayed finalization of audits at times where there is not necessarily a disagreement on matters which are of an audit outcome and contentious matters. I hope that the AG is taking some attention around those key areas going forward. It might be the case that could compromise the quality aspect going forward. Nevertheless, thank you very much for the presentation and the confirmation that your vision informing your mission is still relevant and works well towards the upkeep of accountability in the country. I agree with you that on phrasing things, you are trendsetters. Everybody is talking about areas that relate to matters which were mainly a preserve of environment ecosystem, accountability ecosystem. And now everybody is talking about such. And earlier on was the area that relates to pushbacks and people pick along around such phrases. So the relevance of the Office of the Auditor-General goes into that extent. So thank you very much, AG. Thank you very much, DAG. Any closing comments from your side on this item?
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, and we remain ever grateful for the ongoing support of the committee in this setup within SCOAG, but also in your different roles that you occupy within Parliament. The pressures around funding do need ongoing attention by all of us. So we will maintain proximity with the committee as we look to close the gaps so that the institution is properly capacitated to do what it's supposed to do within our democracy. But I think that would be the last comment, Chair, from our side on the Blue Book. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, H. You can get into the next item. I'm getting into a taxi towards the airport. So if there's any disturbance, Honorable Matafa can assist me. But never, I'm still fine.
Thank you very much, Chair. The next part of our input is really the consultation with the committee on the Audit Directive by the Auditor-General. Section 13 of the Public Audit Act requires that I issue an audit directive after consultation with the honourable members of SCOAG. So we are tabling with you the...
You impound my car. It's the front.
Okay. Maybe you just need to mute yourself.
Okay, AG.
All right. Okay. The consultation is really relating to just very little amendment that we want to make to the Audit Directive. And just a reminder, the directive applies to audits that we conduct, but importantly to audits that are conducted on our behalf by others, by private sector auditors. It does give transparency and predictability in terms of what's expected by the AG, and it does help us with giving some uniform standards in terms of the way the public sector audits are conducted. We want to amend the Audit Directive going forward in two critical areas. One relates to us having deepened our work on performance information. As the honourable members of SCOEG are well aware, we've invested significantly in this area of performance information in terms of the quality and the depth within which we do it, but also in terms of how we report on the work that we're doing on performance information. We've now reached a stage where we want to make a slight amendment in terms of incorporating an audit finding on the completeness of performance indicators. This is quite important because over the last 2 years, we've been identifying that sometimes a performance plan doesn't incorporate the mandate or even the real performance requirements for a particular department or auditee. And we've been giving these assessments as value-added findings that end up in the management report. And in many instances, accounting officers have been responsive in that they've incorporated matters that were not being included in their performance report as objectives. So we believe that we have given enough insight. We have given recommendations, which a number of different players have taken on. We're now at a stage where we want to elevate this item into the audit report. So our Audit Directive would serve to enhance the system's attention to completeness of performance information. You might remember that one of the examples I've often used is that of saying, well, if you've got a department that's supposed to deal with, if it's a Department of Education, it's supposed to deal with the delivery of textbooks to schools. If they take out that particular objective, you never really, as the honourable members of Parliament, get to see what it is they're doing in relation to what it is they're supposed to be doing, and yet resources are being allocated to it. We want to now elevate this completeness measure into the audit report so that there's greater transparency and ultimately greater attention to compiling better performance indicators that can then be tracked. So that's the first thing. We also want to start to improve the strength of our findings and recommendations in terms of how performance information is presented, whether or not the indicators and targets are comparable and understandable. So the adjustment is really to start including these aspects into our audit reports, and it's consistent with the journey we've been on for the last 2 years. The second part of our adjustment into the Audit Directive deals with the work we've been doing on offering differentiated audit methodologies and audit approaches to different types of auditees. You may recall that part of the challenge that we've continuously had to respond to was where smaller auditees were now still required to have the same type of rigorous audit, which is costly and resource intensive, but for little value because of the scale of the size of that entity. So what we've done is we've piloted differentiated audit methodologies, which then allow us now to offer those differentiated audit methodologies into the system. So where you've got a smaller auditee, where we also have assessed that they've got good financial reporting controls, and that we are confident that the risk of misstatement on their financials is quite low, we can issue a smaller package of an audit. We don't believe that this is going to change the levels of transparency or accountability into the system. What it does introduce is some flexibility for us to reduce the cost of audit to the smaller auditees. And that is consistent with what we had promised when we started this journey. So it's just those two amendments that are sitting in the Audit Directive. As we've done before, honourable members, we've given you a directive that does include a marked up version. So you can see exactly where the changes are and you don't have to go through the same old document. That's really what we are proposing as changes. And we would welcome the input of the committee on these proposed amendments to the directive. I'm not sure if Honourable Somio is still available for the moment, but Honourable Matapa, may I hand over to you to see if there's a need to have a conversation on this aspect for now.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Chair, we can hear you.
Okay. Honorable members, I think the AG has alluded to changes which ought to be noted and agreed by us going forward. I don't know whether there are any comments from members or questions on those key changes which deal with the phased in as far as performance indicators are concerned, and the areas which are comparative in as far as the annual performance report is concerned, and the area which relates to users of auditees' financial statements and the material misstatements. And in consideration of this, I don't know whether the AG has ever thought on a number of instances where there are introduced changes through treasury notes, and how could those impact on your structure in as far as auditing is concerned, and the actual meeting the audit directives. Over to you, colleagues. Mumuzo, is this
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Over
Carlo.
to you.
Yes, I think we should accept the proposal from the AG, because it doesn't necessarily mean that we will have lesser audit. The quality of audit will be compromised as such, but they want to ensure that the cost of audit is lesser because the bulk of the work is more than the others. So it's more internal management of the situation. And I don't think it does really need our attention. I think AG is within her right to do those changes. Thanks.
Thank you, Mkota. Are there any further comments on the changes presented by the AG? It looks like there are no further comments. I don't know, AG. It might as well, maybe from time to time, from our part, to do or to influence against a number of changes, which I'm not sure whether you're consulted on from time to time by Treasury, mainly the Office of the Accountant-General, because that fully impacts on the upkeep of the area that relate to Public Finance Management Act. What's your comment there?
No, thank you, Chair. One of the things that we've been doing with the National Treasury is to agreed to support them on their journey of looking at their regulations, especially insofar as the number of Treasury regulations that were issued and affect auditees in MFMA and PFMA. And that work continues with the technical teams. And so we'll continue to provide that insight as the auditors. But ultimately, the role of the Treasury is such that they have to make those decisions. They remain the full authority on what the regulations and standards ought to be. We merely audit against that. But I want to highlight to you, Honourable Chair, that the collaboration between them and us, given our different roles, continues and will continue going into the future.
No, thank you very much, AG. If then that is the case, I think Honourable Mamukota, correctly so, the trust of the actual changes is not to see the diminishing value and the actual hold on the qualitative, substantive nature of the audit process and outcomes. Something which is good for us to keep on track, and through practice, that's what you learn on a day-to-day basis working on these audits. It's going to be even more as you would started to effect the auditing of performance as something which we need to trail in depth to ensure that the outcomes are the outcomes that everybody respects going forward. Thank you very much, AG. If you will have a closing remarks on the item, you're welcome. But we can now go to the third area of the agenda in the finalization of the actual report.
Thank you, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, and thank you, Honourable Kota, for your comments. I don't have any further input at this point. We will proceed then with finalizing the Audit Directive. The next input, Honourable Chair, is the response of the Office to the report of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. The Honourable Members of SCOEG may recall that when the report of the Commission was finalised and tabled, we undertook as Team AGSA to work through that report and to pick out the areas that were relevant to us as the public sector auditors. The report highlighted a number of instances where the public sector auditor could improve in terms of identifying and preventing fraud, corruption, and other forms of impropriety, really with an eye to say, how do we improve what we do and improve our contribution to the accountability ecosystem? The team within the office has worked through the report, as I indicated some time ago, and we identified particular areas that we believe needed our attention. Much of the work has been incorporated into the Blue Book. So if I say anything that's familiar, it's because we've incorporated and integrated our responses into our strategy and into our annual performance plans. Just a high level in terms of the type of areas that we were looking at. The first one related to the audit risk assessment capabilities and practices within the office. And this was about looking at the risk assessment at the audit portfolio level, so across different institutions that we audit. Let's call it transversally, and looking at matters at the auditee level. We also identified an opportunity for us to provide better insight on how human resource management worked within the state. Not because we're the sole authority on all of that, but to use our audit process as part of looking at the practices and disciplines around HRM and to that's human resource management, pardon me. and to collaborate with GPSA and the PSC, the Public Service Commission, on areas that they might need our specific assurance on. Another area related to supply chain management and procurement and contract management. And we also identified an area for us to look more closely at how we audit, not in silos when we audit one institution, but to audit across a value chain and to use data analytics to audit across different public institutions. To also keep integrating our audit approach so that it deals with financial information, performance information, and compliance all at the same time, and essentially follow the money. Our emphasis on performance information has also been informed by what we understood as key risks and opportunities arising from the work of the Commission. And then on the consequence management aspects, at the time that the report came about, we already had the new powers, and we have used those powers to continue to contribute around enhanced consequence management. There was an area on intelligence audits, which I'll cover in a minute, the audits of intelligence bodies and agencies. There was an area on the audit of state-owned entities. And we also identified an opportunity for us to invest in better training for our own teams, better risk awareness, better professional skepticism, and to keep investing in our own ethics training for our teams. The same is true for the audit profession broadly, where the advocacy for independence, the work on audit quality, as well as the work on professional skepticism is happening within the profession, in the different firms, but also as something that is advocated for by all of us that operate within the profession. There was an item in the report that gave us a sense that we really could invest a lot more in other players within the ecosystem of accountability, internal audit committees, as well as oversight. And then also to keep thinking about how we can link up more and more with public bodies that are charged with regulatory responsibilities, with public investigations, but also with law enforcement. So as I speak through each of those areas, it's really with that framing in mind of how we understood as key opportunities for us to enhance and improve what we do. Specifically, we've enhanced the guidance we offer to our teams on auditing all the areas. You can stay there, Svetlana, thank you. On all the areas that I touched on, procurement, auditing the areas of governance, internal audit committees, boards, etc., as well as using our material irregularities. We've looked more deeply at the human resource management practices and disciplines. We've also invested in training within our office so that our teams are just that much more aware of the risks that are in the environment and can learn from what has come to pass as part of improving our own audits and the quality thereof, and then the impact thereof. We've used the opportunity to also consider the scoping of our audit practices and to look at where we allocate resources. So when we need to spend more time and energy in an audit such as Transnet or ESCOM or another public institution that's significant in terms of the elevated risks we see, we then have been able to be flexible and agile to identify areas we could spend a little less time. And part of the conversation we had just now on the Audit Directive comes out of that. In terms of the systems and tools, we've improved our fraud risk databases and as well as our processes of extracting data so that we can analyze what's happening and improve our assessment of risk, but also our ability to follow the money. This remains work in progress, as the Deputy Auditor-General indicated a few minutes ago. We've also continued to strengthen how we audit procurement. As the honourable members know, this is an area that the audit machinery of Team AGSA is particularly strong. We've just taken the opportunity to continue to strengthen it. On the collaboration with other institutions, we've continued to work within our profession, specifically with IRBA and with SAICA to dissect the findings and to highlight the matters that we all could do better on in terms of restoring the reputation of the profession. And we were just as delighted as any other South African with the recent announcement of the CASA brand being the most trusted across the world, which was an announcement made not long ago. We've also understood that the fact that some of the private sector auditors do work on our behalf within the private sector, within the public sector, means we have to continue to walk with them, to learn with them, so that the quality of public sector audits improves across the board. So those engagements continue to happen. In the broader accountability ecosystem, we've invested significantly in internal audit and audit committees, and we'll continue in that journey. We also believe that we could do a bit better as Team HSA in spending time with executive authority, so that we can enhance their understanding of their roles as we see them, but importantly, strengthen their hand in executing on their respective roles. So that will be the work we do in the part of influence, as I indicated when we dealt with the Blue Book. The next slide deals with aspects where there may be regulatory reforms, and we are privileged in that quite often we are given the opportunity to comment on legislative reforms for the public sector, and we do take on those opportunities. And then in terms of the internal audit committees and public bodies, we've used all of our MOUs and relationships to infuse some better collaboration with each of those players. And then I come now to the area of the audits of the intelligence departments and agencies. What we know for sure is that given the nature of these agencies, there has to be a balance between accountability as brought on through the work of the external auditor, being AGSA, on the one hand, but also preserving the very essence of what it is they do. And so our stance, as communicated previously, but also we've workshopped it with the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, is that what we've got to do as Team HSA is, yes, apply better professional skepticism on the things we do, but the nature, especially of the COVID operations, is such that it's best to rely on input from other players in the ecosystem, such as the internal auditors and audit committees, but also the Inspector General, so that a combination of the different role players does give the type of assurance that's required. So we continue to work with the IGI as well as the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence in terms of enhancing the contribution all of us make into the assurance required to instill transparency, but importantly, accountability in those agencies. On the state-owned entities, Schedule 2 of the PFMA lists 21 institutions. Out of those 21, if you take out SA Express, which was liquidated, and then you take out Telkom, which is no longer part of our audit mandate, you then are left with 19 of those. We, as Team HSA, have been auditing 15 of the Schedule 2s. I beg your pardon, I shouldn't say 17, it's actually 15. The ones that are not being audited by us are Eskom, Broadband Infraco, the IDC, as well as ATNS, the air traffic controllers. And that is because they're still being audited by private sector auditors. As the honorable members of SCOEG are aware, we have deployed a number of AGSA individuals to work with the appointed private sector auditor at Eskom, so that two things happen. Those auditors and Eskom itself benefit out of the infusion of AGSA expertise on auditing public institutions, but also it positions Team AGSA well for us to take on that audit at the appropriate time. You may also recall that we followed a similar strategy leading up to the take-on of Transnet. On the material irregularities, the work that we've been doing, I think the DAG also highlighted, has been most effective in terms of the type of coverage we're able to offer, but importantly, the impact we're able to have in terms of preserving financial resources for the state. What we've always said is, as Team AHSA, we'll do our work as hard as we can and as effectively as we can, and I believe that you've seen that. But if you look at the leakage in the system from fruitless and wasteful expenditure, from losses that arise because processes are not well followed, the loss is always much greater than what we're able to safeguard by way of resource protection. So the opportunity is for accounting officers and all in the ecosystem to prevent these problems in the first instance. And then in the internal environment within Team AHSA, we've invested in our own capability to conduct our audits in the way that I've just set out in terms of the type of focus we have. We've also looked more deeply in terms of our own ethics management practices, and the DAG managed to highlight some of those in his input a few minutes ago. And then in terms of other matters that we're dealing with within Team AHSA, is to take stock of what we are learning as we go, whether it's about things we need to think about differently on our procurement processes, or even on our due diligence in terms of how we appoint suppliers and how we vet them, our own due diligence in terms of how we hire key executives in the environment. So all of that remains work in progress. Honorable Chair, I've tried hard to summarize it, but still to give you a good sense of how we are doing as we have distilled the opportunities for learning and action within Team AHSA, insofar as how we audit, whom we audit and when, but also how we run the institution. Crucial for us is to use the opportunity that the report gave us, which was to learn and to deepen the work that we've done. Thank you very much, Chair. Therein is our input on how we've responded to this report. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, AG, which is a contribution of value in noting the report of the Commission. And of course, that is a progressing way of response which relates to capacity on a heightened environment to respond as such. Something is going to be required from time to time because that relates to your capacity and the form of adaptation into some of the areas which are of necessity. You're doing so not because there's any finding against the Office of the Auditor-General. You're doing so for a firm contribution towards a cleanup of the environment, of criminality, of fraud, of areas of avoidance of corruptible acts, and therefore your areas which you have indicated to us even earlier on that your strategy has to respond to in terms of the build up through the IT systems, enhancing your functionality one way or the other to remain more competitive and stronger and resilient in as far as the audit environment is concerned. So I think this kind of contribution we must somewhat appreciate. I don't know whether colleagues have got anything to say. Over to you, colleagues.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Honorable Pusha.
Thanks, Chairperson. Greetings to yourself, Chair, and honorable members, the AG's office at its entirety, and our support staff. No, Chair, mine is just to welcome and appreciate the presentation, Chair. Also, mostly appreciating the fact that the Office of the AG was able to analyze the report and they acted on areas of ensuring that we improve systems. Another area which I think is worth appreciating, Chair, is that of the recovered financial losses and those that have been prevented, Chair. As you were correctly summarizing, Chair, and that which is quite a huge amount that is still, they are still in the process of ensuring that they recover, Chairperson. But then again, Chair, this one, I think it's a matter of ourselves as the committee to deal with, and I'm not sure, maybe because I'm an alternate in the committee in terms of the approach that we are to use in terms of following up with the entities that are not audited or by the AGSA. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Pusher. Is there anyone else?
Matafa, Chair.
Honorable Matafa. Honorable Matafa, let me just go to us. Yeah, Honorable Matafa and then Honorable Singh, Honorable Mlenzana.
Thank you very much, Chair. Now, mine is going to be brief. I will first join Honorable Mpushe in welcoming the presentation. Just to ask a question, I've read somewhere that the Chief Justice had recommended an establishment of a permanent anti-state capture commission of some sort. So is there a defined process through which the AG then updates the commission in terms of its analysis of the report and areas of improvement that they are bringing on to ensure that there is compliance or to show effort as far as the State Capture Commission report is concerned? It's only that one. Is there a process of engagement, or is just an internal process? The AG does it for themselves and it will end there. No one will come and say, we raised this, you are doing that, we are happy, or you are doing this, maybe look at it from another angle. Just only that one question, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Singh.
Oh, thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to you and the colleagues and the AG and the team. And thank you for this report. Yeah, AG, the question I would like to ask is after analyzing the report of the State Capture Commission, did your office find any significant omissions that may have been there in the way you operate that were pointed out by the State Capture Commission? And if so, what would you think the key areas were that they pointed out that you all might have not identified in your normal course of work? So that's the first question. The second one, was there a need arising out of the SCC report to go back and do any specific interventions in departments or SOEs that the SCC might have pointed out? And lastly, is the SOEs, 17 out of 21 you are doing, is there a particular time frame that you've set yourself for ESCOM and Broadband Infraco, IDC, and the other state-owned enterprise for the Office of the AGSA to do the actual auditing? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Honorable Mlenzana.
No, thanks, Chairperson. And let me also greetings to AG and team AGSA, and greetings colleagues and everybody in the platform. Chair, mine is just one. And, this thing of being the last speaker, what you would have wanted to speak would be dealt with, but unfortunately, the other way around. My comment question, AG, would be, in a generic accountability ecosystem, I'm saying generic deliberately, there would be the user, who is the auditee, and the book relationship, those two. And the auditor, who in this case is Team HSA, would come in as a third person, who normally, once more, in a general, course of doing things, would come in as per the invitation, as per the directives, as per the agreed upon or set standards, wherein HSA would, when coming in, start by having a brief as to, under normal circumstances, the normal course of doing things is A, B, C, D. And then when you come in as the auditor, you would then begin to check as to whether the normal things or the normal ways of doing things as set out and as per the brief that you were given before are on track. Hence then, if, remember I said, AG, the relationship between those two would be the book and the auditee, the user and the book. Hence then, if the auditee or the user, for whatever reason, fails to give you all the requisite information that is now from the book, you would then issue out your own response, which says, because of the shortage of information, I was then, as the Team HSA, unable to provide the would-be expected finding. Hence, I disclaim. I'm raising this, Chair and, AG, to people who I know that they even know more than myself. However, when now you have got this thinking, I would say it's a thinking, because for now it is not an instruction by the findings of the State Capture Commission. Are you able to, out of your own, let me repeat, Chairperson, out of your own, without another instruction, kick in as per the finding of the State Capture Commission? Or is the State Capture Commission's report and articulation beginning to say this is what is expected or was expected from Team HSA? I'm thinking aloud, Chairperson. Hence, mine was more of listening and perhaps saying, can we then begin to say we are picking and beginning to study these notes, and then thereafter we would then see how best to go forward as a Team HSA. Thanks, Chairperson.
AG. About you,
Thank you,
AG.
Chair.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and I'd like to thank the honourable members for their comments and questions. Honorable Mpushe, you ask about the work that we're doing on the Section 4.3s, the audits where we're not, that are still being conducted by others. And I'd link it to my response to Honorable Singh's question on what we're doing around the 4 audits in Schedule 2 that we're not yet auditing. So ESCOM has got private sector auditors in place at the moment. We've got a team from our office that forms part of that audit, and it serves the purpose of infusing AGSA ways of work and ways of looking at areas, especially on procurement, into the audit that's being signed off by the private sector auditor. But it also gives us, as Team AGSA, some insight on the entity that is ESCOM, so that when we get ready to take it on, we have a better chance. We followed the same process in the lead up to taking on the audit of Transnet. Where we are in terms of ESCOM, I think it's about 2 things that are happening at the same time. One is that there's a process to restructure the entity. I think that is well understood and documented publicly. We would need to see how that pans out and be able to assess how, as the Supreme Audit Institution of South Africa, we can best contribute to accountability in the context of this newly structured entity. So there's that dynamic, which we are watching very closely. The second one is to look at the options that are available to us at the time that the audit or the term of the current auditors ends. They've signed off 2 audits and they have a 5-year appointment term already in place. And out of that, they've done 2. So we will continue to watch this space, Honorable Singh, continue to work with those private sector auditors and to shape our own readiness to take on this audit. Much of it will be dependent on where things are around the restructuring. As you well know, it's quite important for us to manage these transitions as soberly as possible. So that we don't risk audit failures. And importantly for me is to give the members of Team HSA the very best chance of success in the things that they take on. Which leads me to your question, Honorable Singh, about were there any specific omissions that were raised in the report of the State Capture Commission. There were not omissions or findings against the AGSA. In fact, we were lauded by the Commission on the work we had done, especially at SAA, at Denel, and at PRASA. The role that Team AGSA played in each of those contexts was lauded because we were able to provide very clear insight on each of those departments at each of those entities at very critical times and critical moments. So what we've taken out of the report are opportunities for us to learn and to deepen what we do, rather than to respond to findings or directives, as there were no findings against Team AGSA. One of the things that came out in the report was an observation of the poor accountability within the intelligence services, and hence the approach we've taken to keep examining how best we can contribute given the inherent limitations, especially on the covert operations, as I indicated. The Commission also highlighted a preference for AGSA to take on more and more of these state-owned entities, because the track record we had been able to demonstrate was one where we were involved, there was a much better audit and much clearer insight in terms of the state of accountability, transparency, and performance in those institutions. So part of the strategy that we set out and what we've been implementing has been to take on these audits, but also to improve the oversight on the ones we've not yet taken over. So entities such as Broadband Infraco, ATNCS, as well as IDC, we work more and more closely with those auditors as we look at the manner of the audits that are conducted there. We're also paying closer attention to whether or not our audit directive is being complied with. So the short answer to yourself, Honorable Singh, to Honorable Mpushe, as well as Honorable Mlenzana on the SOE story, it is that we are continuing on our journey of taking on audits, but importantly, of improving our oversight on the audits where we've not yet taken over. And I think that is starting to come through, even when you look at the reports and the insights that's availed to Parliament on those entities, even when we don't audit. Honorable Matafa, you ask about whether or not we are interacting with the commission going forward, or the new permanent structures. What we've done is we've reported to the president on his request in terms of what it is we aim to do and where we are. We've also given that update. And we will stand ready to cooperate with key functionaries in the state in the efforts to respond decisively to the effort of or the need to strengthen accountability and to safeguard resources across government. At the moment, we're not a member of any commission or additional structure than what you're aware of, but we have been sharing our progress with the president. And maybe the last question from Honorable Mlenzana about these disclaimers, etc., and are there things we could do to act on the report? So given that there were no real directives or findings against Team HSA, there was nothing really for us to go and do that in terms of an instruction. But I think I've taken you through how we've responded to the report. One of the things we've done is, and I think you'll recall when we started it, is to say when there's a disclaimer, two things must happen. One, as Team HSA, we must get clearer and more frank about what a disclaimer actually is, and to send out a very clear message about how intolerable it is. And you might recall we started becoming that much sharper in the messaging about why it was urgent for everybody in the ecosystem to act quickly and decisively where there were disclaimers. So we'll continue on that basis. The second thing we did with disclaimers, we started with the municipalities, was to look at their transactions and to start identifying material irregularities and to start linking the dysfunction in those institutions to resource leakage, but also to the breakdown of infrastructure, the breakdown of service delivery. And that is part of what we've understood as our role, which is to audit and report and to use the insights we have to influence the action that others must take. So we've used our enforcement powers through the MIs, we've used our influence in terms of sharpening the messages. We've also gone into the ecosystem and given recommendations to provincial governments to also act on these disclaimed municipalities. And I think we'll start now to also do the same on the disclaimed PFMA auditees. Fortunately, there are very, very few of those. The one message that you'll start to see coming strongly from us is on the outstanding audits. And I know it came up when we met with the committee on the annual report recently around these outstanding audits, the ones that are delayed, but also the ones where we don't get submissions of financial statements. And so we are going to get clearer about two things: the messaging around it, so we influence action, but also to give greater insight on what is really happening within those institutions in as far as we can. At the end of the day, we can influence others to act, but we can't force them. But we remain of the view that we do have a contribution to make, and we try hard to make that contribution in a way that's going to turn things around. So I hope I've responded to all of the questions and insights from the honourable members. I'll hand back to you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much, AG. Yes, indeed, you have taken the time to respond to the areas which the members wanted clarities on. And indeed, the pride is on us because the price of corruption is huge. And therefore, every entity, as I always say this, looking to the requirements that are stipulated into the Constitution on the responsibility of this office, the Office of the Auditor-General of South Africa. And while we do so, we need to ensure that the entrenchment of a sense of action in a more independent drive, without any prejudice, without any fear, the Office of the AG should keep that kind of a standard. And therefore, the actual pondering into the totality of the findings, something which they analyze and learn from. They would have indicators which are taking them towards growth, towards instances of pure relevance, and the angle which is going to have a permanent upkeep in as far as this office ability to produce qualitative audits, something that has been the case right through, if you look into the testimonies that went into the commission. And lastly, would be that that commission's work came up and had victims in big companies, big firms, which are in the auditing environment. And the AG came out of that kind of scrutiny within an angle which enhanced accountability in the proper sense. So in whatever form of interacting now, after the commission results, we know for a fact that the commission has been closed. There's no longer a commission of inquiry. What we have are the results, and those results would remain as a reference point. And as such, the Office of the AG is getting into that reference point, taking areas which are pertinent to their own functioning and scope. So we do appreciate the fact that they are reporting to us on such, knowingly the chair of chairs has been charged with that responsibility, so that each and every entity which has been somewhat identified having a role to fight corruption, to have some sense of a plan modeled around such findings, and so that Parliament should as well respond appropriately on those matters. So we'll take the same report. It will go the same route, forwarding it to the Office of the Chair of Chairs in the compilation of the parliamentary response on those matters. That with HSA, the committee which is responsible in this instance, which is our committee, these are the areas which we are looking at. And therefore, we're working with the Office of the Auditor-General to enhance the ability of the office to do work, so that we don't get back into the situations which have been somewhat identified. So it's no longer accountable to the commission. There's no commission now. It's only the reference of work. Secondly, is that based on the accountability of this office, in terms of the Constitution, they will keep on feeding their own scope of work, as we do in terms of accountability to Parliament, and for Parliament to respond comprehensively with other committees, entities which have charged with the same responsibility. So thank you very much, AG, for this kind of a report, which will take note and be able to coin our own approach going forward. Are there any closing responses? If there are any closing comments from the AG, so that we can pass. Mr. Dumezweni, can you flout the what's name, the agenda? Yes, AG.
Okay, shall do. Thank you.
I was just taking the opportunity to thank the committee and to thank yourself, Honourable Chair, for the opportunity for us to share these three parts of the planning documents for Teenage SA for the forthcoming performance period. And to thank you again for your ongoing support and insight, which we so value. Thank you, Chair. Chair, you may be on mute.
Yeah, real Auditor General. Yeah, thank you very much for such. Colleagues, thank you very much for your contributions on the items that we have dealt with this morning. Ours is to enrich the direction of this office so that the country should keep on enjoying the qualitative work and indulgence by the Office of the Auditor-General. We remain proud to the fact that this office still remains as a hope for the country's ability to withhold, to deepen, to sustain democratic values for the functioning of the state overall, and more so the accountability on the financial track in as far as the fiscus is concerned. So thank you very much, AG, and your team for these qualitative inputs that we have received this morning. In absence of any other thing, as I see the agenda is finished. I had to complete this meeting standing somewhere in the airport so that we should somewhat be able to get on track in finalizing the entirety of the agenda. Thank you very much, colleagues, for valued contribution. Thanks, AG. Thanks to AG and your teams. Thanks to our support staff secretariat. And thank you very much to those who are part of the meeting, journalists and everybody out there. Mr. Peter Paul, for your presence in this meeting. We so appreciate. Thank you very much. The meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you. Bye-bye, colleagues.
You leave the chair. Inkosi kakhulu.
It's the airport. At the airport. Bye-bye. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Recording stopped.
Start.